Alright, hello everyone, welcome back. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about Dinan, France, which is like this tiny little town in northwest France that Jen and I went to alone. Obviously we'd now already broken up, or not broken up, just separated ourselves distance-wise from Mitch and Lisa. They're up in Lille, or up in northern France, and now we're in northwest France, so we're close but we're not in the same city. And today I want to tell you guys a little bit about the story. The first story I want to talk to you guys about is how we got there. So that was actually pretty crazy. Heading from Barcelona up to northwest France, we started on a high-speed international train line from Barcelona into Rennes, France, something like that, I believe it was. So it was about a 22-cart high-speed rail train. From there we went on to go on to about a 17-cart regular style train ride. And then we took a third train, which was about 12 carts. Then we took a fifth train, and the fifth train was about half a dozen carts, 6 or 7 carts. And by the time we got to the last train of our evening, it was a 5-train day. It was a single cart with one driver, one attendant, Jen and I on the train. That's it. One cart. The train went into the town and went out of the town on this little rail. And we got there at 11:30 at night. The train station was closed, there was no one around, and we realized, like, oh, our hostel, or our bed and breakfast that we're staying at, is a 30-minute walk out of town. We didn't even know which way it was, which was pretty crazy. So we ended up talking to the attendant, and she let us use her cell phone to talk to the only taxi driver in France, which was absolutely just like, or not in France, sorry, in Dinan, this small town. And we got on the phone with him. He came and picked us up, and immediately his charger was already at 12 euros. And we're like, what the hell? Like, why is it already at 12 euros? And luckily I spoke French, so during the ride there, Jen and I were just passing back and forth the iPod, just like making sure we're like, well, we're not going to talk about this in English, but like, we'll just like make sure we're both on the same page. It definitely started at 12. And by the time we got to the bed and breakfast, it was like this dark place. We went along the highway, and then we turned in and went along this gravel road for about a kilometer, trees overarching. It was just one of those scenes where it's like, oh my gosh, we're in this scab with this sketchy cab driver heading into the woods, like in a place we don't even know where. And it was like, what are we going to do? I have no idea. So eventually I'm like, well, excuse me, sir, like, you know, you started your ticker at 12 euros in French, and he's like, yeah, well, that's because it's 11:30 at night. And like, well, why not? Because you guys are like here, and I didn't want to drive you guys, and I came and drove you. And I was like, well, you guys are like, that's your job, is to like drive people around. Your taxi driver is like, why are you charging us 12 euros to start it off? And he ended up bringing the price down to 15 euros from 18, which is really, the whole taxi ride should have been about 6. So we definitely got screwed, but I was no place to like argue with the guy, because he'd taken us in the middle of nowhere. I didn't know where I was, and the bed and breakfast people we hadn't contacted since earlier that day, because there's no Wi-Fi on those trains. So eventually we started walking on the bed and breakfast, which is like this little cottage, almost like ranch style property with a bunch of like guest houses. And eventually the lady was like, saw that people were walking around her property late at night, and came out and was like, oh, you guys are the people, Mitchell and Jen, you guys are waiting, like, oh, welcome. So we finally got checked in, and the next morning we didn't get out of bed till like 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And it says, didn't get out of bed till, went and got some groceries, and just like went for a walk in the town, which was about a 30-minute walk away, but wasn't that bad realistically, considering we had no other way of getting around town, and there was no rental bikes or anything like that. So we took a walk around, and we saw this small little carousel in the middle of the town square that was like running, and apparently they run it all the time, and kids can go on it under 12 or 14 and ride it all the time. Like they're allowed, it just constantly goes. It's like, wow, that's super cool. There's just like this little horse ride carousel thing that is going, and you're able to go on it all the time as long as you're obviously a child. And I was like, wow, that's like a super cool little town France thing. That's something you would not see in North America or in Canada or anywhere else in Europe. I found that like I didn't really see anything else like that, so it was worth remembering for sure. And then after lunch we went to this pastry place, which in my opinion, best pastries I've ever had in my entire life. Then again, I haven't had that many pastries, but they had these lemon pastry cakes like it was like basically like mini lemon meringue pies with more of like a thicker lemon custard, and it was unbelievable. We had them every single day, and then at the end of the trip in Dinan, we ended up taking a box of them and transporting them via train all the way to the eastern side of France in Lille, which is where we were eventually. So that was like, the pastries were insane. And then the second day, we walked around and we returned back to the town, and we were kind of just roaming around more parts of the town, and eventually we stumbled upon this like small little walled city. And I'll never forget what Jen said. She was like, "This place is better than Disneyland. It's like a real world Disneyland." And I was like, coming from Jen, that's someone who loves Disney, was something, it was just very special to hear, because it was like, wow, we found something that's better than Disneyland for Jen. That definitely means something. And this place was basically like alive. It was like the living medieval century buildings, like all wood. The wood was so old and dry and cracking, but they were like keeping those buildings. The doors were like 5 to 6 feet tall, like they were tiny doors and very narrow. Like they hadn't changed the structure of any of these authentic buildings because they obviously wanted to keep their authenticity. And there was a whole area like the size of a small Chinatown, or a large park, a good acre or two of these buildings that you could walk around and roam in and out of. And there was like pastry places and waffle cone places and ice creams and like fine dining areas. And it was a very touristy town. It was really cool because Jen and I got to see tour buses kind of come in and go, but Jen and I were staying just outside the town, so every day we got to come into the town and experience a little bit different parts of the town. And yeah, so we walked in there. What else did we do? We definitely had those pastries more than once. And the place that we stayed at, this bed and breakfast that we stayed at, we got a really good deal on bookings.com, which is why we ended up going there. It was like 40 euros a night for us, and the original price was 80 euros a night. So it was like this just lavish honeymoon suite, massive ensuite bathroom, huge king-size bed, really comfy bed. Like, just enjoyed the suite as much as we could and just walked around the town as much as we wanted to, and it soaked it in, and just really had like this nice quiet few days in northwest France before going to Lille, where the journey ended for Lisa, Mitch, and Jen. So next time I'll talk to you guys a little bit about what Lille, France was like, and say a farewell to Jen, Lisa, and Mitch, and I would continue my journey from there solo for the rest of the summer and for the rest of my traveling. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little segment on Dinan, France, and if you guys want to check out more videos, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I hope you guys are enjoying these as much as I'm enjoying sharing them with you guys. Have a great day.